This is the Jedburgh podcast. I'm the host, Fran Racioppi. Each episode, I speak with transformative leaders, visionaries, drivers of change, and those dedicated to winning, no matter the challenge. The Jedburgh podcast is founded in the lineage of the Special Operations Jedburgh teams of the past and is sponsored by Talent War Group, an executive search and talent advisory. Visit talentwargroup.com for more. A percentage of all proceeds is dedicated to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. All that glitters isn't gold. How could you be so bold? Please come in from the cold. Why is my toast full of mold? This is Rhyme Antics. And in this episode, Chantel Calloway explains how she went from robbing a bank 10 years ago to being the first Black-owned board game in big box retailers Walmart and Target. Chantel shared the keys to finding early-stage investment through crowdsourcing and the pitfalls founders face when developing concepts that require continuous iteration. Plus, she tested my literacy and rap skills in a very competitive round of Rhyme Antics. Chantel, welcome to the Jedburgh podcast.
Hey, good morning. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I have been fortunate in my life to work in a variety of industries. I've gone to school in different places. I've traveled. I've worked all across the world, and I've met some amazing people along the way. And the internet and social media have brought the world closer in so many ways to make relationship management easier and make sure that you know what people in your life are doing. We get to see and hear about what they're doing almost in real time, anywhere they are in the world. And the days of having to hop on the phone and talk to somebody, they're kind of like over. And we could probably do a whole podcast on if that's good or bad. I don't even know. There's pros or cons on both sides. But I say all this because regardless of the many places that we go in our lives and the experiences that we have, the people we meet, we never forget about the people that we meet early in our life, the people who influenced us from what I call my glory days or our glory days of high school and college when we had no fear. And you could only predict, right, what everybody was going to do with their life, but you didn't really know. And you said, I don't know, what's that person going to be? And you would conjecture, are they going to make it? Are they not? And I remember a conversation that we had now like 23 years ago when you decided to graduate from high school a year early. The rest of us were there still trying to figure out who we were, what we wanted to do with the next week, let alone graduating high school a year early. And we were holding on, scared of the future. But you knew what that next step was, and you jumped headfirst into it. And admittedly, and probably very wrongfully, that's like the last time we spoke.
Yeah.
Until a few months ago, I saw this headline that Chantel Calloway created a board game and made history by becoming the first Black-owned game to be in big box retail, Target and Walmart, now 700 stores. And you created Rhyme Antics. I don't even know if we can call it a board game, but we got to talk about that because there's so many aspects to this thing. But having known your work ethic, your drive, the innovation, the vision that you displayed as just a young teenager, I wasn't surprised. And I was so proud of what you've accomplished. And then I said, wait, I have to get her on the podcast.
Yeah, it's incredible. So really, in the beginning process of creating the game, I was really lost, and I had to actually take myself back to that time in high school where I did make that decision to achieve greatness, and I did it. And so really my ambition and my ability to make a decision regardless of where I'm currently at in life, which, at that time when I made that decision to graduate from high school early, my grades were shit. They were I was like a D student, I believe. And I remember going to Mr. D and telling him this is what I wanted to do because I heard somebody else
who was the principal. I spent a lot of time in his office, a good amount of time in his office.
Yes, Mr. D. It was two Mr. Ds. It was Mr. D. Simone and Mr. I forget.
DeSaulners.
Yeah, there was a vice principal and the principal were Mr. D. So I had a meeting with both of them and I said, listen, I want to graduate early. They pulled out my grades and was like, there's no way you can graduate early. I mean, look at your grades. Your history is I was a D student. I performed when I wanted to in classes that I liked. I'm like that, I'm choosy. So They were like, in order for you to graduate early, you have to double up on English, double up on maths, and you have to get A's in every single class for the rest of the year. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And, they just thought I was full of it. I was like, okay, I'll do it. It's like, I love challenges. That's me. I love challenges. And what drives me most is when someone doubts my ability to be able to do something, right? So that really drives me. And so I remembered that I can do anything, literally anything, regardless of my current circumstances. I can just make the decision and do it. And so, Rhyme Antics was really born out of remembering who I am as a powerful creator.
Well, let's talk about the game. So I played the game last night with my daughter, who's 11, and I'm 40. And also my son, who's 1. And I was telling you before we started that it was so funny because he kept grabbing the microphone from us and talking into it, and then handing it back. It was so funny. But really, I have to congratulate you because this game truly is not only fun and engaging, but 100% educational. I was truly humbled. And I talk about humility in every single one of these Jedburgh podcasts because it's a core component and characteristic of elite performance. But I was truly humbled in my lack of vocabulary. Okay. And it really kept telling myself and saying out loud, I know no words in the English language.
Wow.
Because this game, not only did it make me think, but when I couldn't come up with a rhyming word, I'm going to let you explain the game. I immediately grabbed the card to turn it around to see what words I should know. And then you think, oh my God.
Like, how did I forget those words?
How did I know nothing? And so there's an app component to the game. There's like 12,000 vocabulary words, including SAT words. You get more points for homophone. I haven't heard the word homophone since the days that we were in English class, and I received 0 points because I got no homophones. There's official words, unofficial words, bonus words. We're going to play the game in a little bit. But what is Rhyme Antics? I mean, what is it? How do we play it?
Yeah, so Rhyme Antics, in a nutshell, is a vocabulary game inspired by hip hop, right? So the genesis of the game is like from me being a hip hop head, from my family and I loving game night, and there was a lack of new, innovative games. We had been playing the same games for decades, and we just wanted a new game idea. And the whole family, we're all hip hop heads. But moreover, I am a logophile. So a logophile is a person who loves words. We have a real deep love for words. When we were, in school, I always loved vocabulary. That was my favorite subject. I love learning new words. And hip hop artists, real MCs, are real lyrical geniuses where, I was born in we're 80s babies. So are you 80s baby? I'm older than you.
I am.
You're 80s. Okay. So, we were really born in the golden era of hip hop where, hip hop artists were real lyrical geniuses and they told these amazing stories with a vast vocabulary. And so when you play this game, you realize the true talent that exists in being a hip hop artist. To be able to freestyle off the top of your head and use words and tell a story is like a real talent. And so, all my passions kind of came together to create this vocabulary game inspired by hip hop because I wanted to add value back to the culture of hip hop and back to my community through having people challenge and work their brain. As you said, you could automatically see it was challenging you. It was tapping into all those cognitive skills, your memory, your focus, your fluid intelligence, your speed, all those things that really activates your brain in an era where we really are not using our brains anymore. The research shows that the phones are really corrupting our cognitive skills and ability at an alarming rate. So it's really, really important that we continue to activate our brains and our cognitive skills and read and think. And so, I just really wanted to add value back to the culture. But it's a really fun literacy game, but it's inspired by the roots of hip hop artistry.
And you have actually stated, and I'll quote here, so if I get it wrong, you have to tell me, but you said, quote, "We have a literacy crisis in this country that's not being talked about. Statistics show that there are 36 million Americans who can't read. It's definitely socioeconomic and it affects Black and brown families and kids. And the problem is really that it's the schools in the curriculum. There's a lot of focus on STEM, but you have to know how to read.
Yes, absolutely. So reading is really the foundation of all education, everything. If you can't read, you can't learn STEM or STEAM or any subject, really, math even, it's the foundation of all education. And it's not being talked about. There's, especially with this last administration, Obama was really adamant about promoting it. National Literacy Month was regularly promoted every September, but the next administration came in, there was really no attention. Everything, Obama did was reversed, and there was no attention to anything that was really important. So now that number has definitely grown, and people who cannot read at all, we have over, almost 40 million Americans walking around who don't read above a third grade level. And it's become more than socioeconomic now. Since 2017, the data shows that there's been a decline in literacy rates amongst all students from any socioeconomic background. And so it's because of the phones, though. It's because of the computer and technology. And it's really concerning. It really concerns me, especially for my community who's impacted the most. And with COVID, I'm really concerned about those numbers after COVID ends, because these children being in the home and not being in school anymore is going to further increase the disparity in those low literacy rates. So, it's just my duty, as a social entrepreneur, to promote reading culture and to use the biggest music genre on the planet to do that.
And so the game gives you a phrase, and at the end of the phrase, there's a word that you have to rhyme with.
Right. Yeah. So you get a bar. So in hip hop, it's called a bar.
See, I know nothing about music and apparently English or music.
Yeah. So the game is played. So two teams battle, right? There's 3 levels of difficulty: easy, intermediate, and intellectual. And the team chooses a difficulty level, and a card gets read to them at random. And it might say something like this: I love to eat, right? That's an easy card. And so the team has 60 seconds for each person to quickly freestyle a verse or a bar, right? And the last word of your sentence has to rhyme with eat. And so there's a bunch of words on the back of the card that you're trying to guess to get points. And so we'll play right now, Fran. So I love to eat, right? So if I was on your team, I might kick it off and say, yo, DJ, give me a beat. And then Fran would say,
only if I'm on my feet.
Very good. See, I knew you could do it. And then I might say, I left my man because he likes to cheat. And then Fran would say,
I only eat meat.
Very good. So Fran, that was whack. Take a seat. We go back and forth. And there's all these words on the back of the card that you would get points for. And so that's the artistry of hip hop. You're freestyling, and then every sentence you're saying is in rhyme scheme. And then, on the back of the card, you got all these rhyme words, bonus words, and then homophones. And there's over 7,700 homophones in the English language, which is kind of crazy. English language is actually the most difficult language to learn. And it's because there's so many different rules in English. The rules change. They're confusing. Words like live and live, you know what I mean? Live and live, rather. They're spelled the same, but they mean different things. Right. And all the homophones that sound the same, but mean different things. It's like really confusing. So English, I love it. It's a challenge. And this actually works great too with people learning English as a different language. So that's why I think the game has been so successful, because it's so dynamic. It's like all these different things. It's adult party game for kids, for the family, a drinking game, but then teachers are using it in their classroom. It's great for artist development. It's great for learning English as a second language. It's just like so many great things.
Let's talk about the road to get there, to where you are today. And in fact, this mission that you set out on to create this game came out of a self-assessment, this introspective period, and an acceptance that you were really at the bottom. It's 2010, New Year's Eve in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And you make the decision to rob a bank, and you spend 3 days in jail. And the way you've defined that decision is, quote, "I was lost spiritually, not focused. I forgot my potential. I wasn't living my purpose. I was just lost and fell upon hard times." Mm-hmm. Would you be willing to share what happened and talk about these dire straits that you were in and why you made that bold decision to rob a bank? Because, I mean, this is not an easy decision.
No, it's not. And yeah, no, I certainly can talk about it. I'm going to be writing a book where I'll get into deep detail about the events of that day and like really what happened. But I will, discuss it. Again, the bottom line is I was spiritually lost. I believe whatever your religion is, and I'm not religious, I'm a spiritual woman. I believe in a higher power. I believe in the creator. I believe in the universe. I believe in universal laws that exist. And I had no connection with the creator at all. I was just walking around, living life in my ego with no purpose, no goals, and had really forgotten who I was, as a co-creator. And, I'd forgotten my greatness. So I just was really lost. And I just lost a job in Atlanta, Georgia. And I told this story recently, actually. Nobody really knew it. I was actually working for a guy in Atlanta who was trying to run a Ponzi scheme. And he had paid me a retainer for my marketing services. And then a few months go by and like me and the whole staff, we're not getting paid. And we're like, what's going on? I'm in Georgia. You have to have a card to live in Georgia. My card broken down. And, this guy wasn't paying us. I found myself behind in bills. I have a son to take care of. And Christmas was around the corner. And it was just like all these things were coming at me at one time. You know what I mean? And I felt like really hopeless and lost. And I don't know. I think I watched The Town too many times.
A throwback to the days in Boston. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm a Boston bad girl. I can do that. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me, but it was not a good idea. And I did it. And it was just taking myself back. I really hate thinking about it just because it's not who I am anymore. But when I do think about it and I put myself back in that state, I'm just like, I cannot believe I did that shit. Like, wow, girl, you are really crazy and fearless. And so I got caught immediately. And I always say it was divine intervention from God. It was a poor choice, but had I not made that choice, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so it was divine intervention that I was caught, and I did spend 3 days in jail. And people always really shocked that I only spent 3 days in jail for a crime like that. But I can only say that the first night that I was in jail, it was so surreal, Fran. Like, it was New Year's Eve, and I was literally being brought to my cell during the countdown. So the countdown was on TV. They were letting it play for the cell unit because it was New Year's Eve. So it was a special occasion. And as I'm being brought to my cell, the countdown is going, 10, 9, 8. And it literally, the door shut on the 1 in the new year. And so I was like, I cried all night and I just reevaluated myself. And I started talking to God. We had a little window. I was on the top bunk, and the girl who was my cellmate was pregnant, and she was crying because she was going into labor. So it was like all these kind of spiritual things coming at me. And she was going into labor, and I got locked up right on the countdown. And then I'm looking out the window and I'm listening to this girl cry. And then by the morning, she was gone. When I woke up in the morning, she was gone because she went to have her baby. And then, it was just so nuts. So I did not sleep that night, actually. Well, for a few minutes, but I cried and I prayed all night. And I prayed the whole entire time I was in jail. And I asked God to spare me. And I made the promise. I said, if you bring me out of this, I will change my life. And I was serious about that.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, I can only imagine what that felt like. And to not become overwhelmed, in that moment would be a tremendous feat. So I can only imagine what you were going through at that period of time.
Yeah.
Accepting when you're at rock bottom is really tough to internalize. Many people can't. Elite performers have a tough time of doing this. It's actually one of the things that sets elite performers apart from everybody else is their ability to step back and say, I've done something, I have to take ownership of it.
Right.
Type A personalities, and we talk about it in a lot of the episodes here, really suck at this because type A personalities want to stand up and say, no, it was somebody else's fault, and they cast blame or they deflect ownership, right, in these times. But being able to sit there as you did and internalize this and accept responsibility, accept that you put yourself in this position is a really, really difficult thing to do. And so can you talk a little bit about, as you sat there and these thoughts were going through your mind as you cried it out, right, for lack of better explanation, and you prayed to God, how did you just say to yourself, I'm going to accept this. I'm going to own this right now. And if I get out of here, now I'm going to make some concrete changes.
How? Well, I think it's always been in my character to accept and take responsibility for me and my actions. That's definitely in my character, and it's always been. I'm not a liar. And in fact, I hate liars, and I always have been. And I think that comes from like some childhood trauma dealing with my dad, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but you know what I mean? So like, I really hate liars and people who don't take responsibility for their wrongdoing. And so, I was able to take responsibility quickly. But the hard work was like realizing how far gone I really was. You know what I mean? How lost I really was, how off track I really was. And then trying to self-evaluate and figure out like, okay, where did I go wrong? And how messed up am I? That like, what are the things I need to fix in me? Like, how do I need to get back to the greatness that I know I am? And so it was in jail that I made the decision to create the game, you know what I mean, to actually bring it to fruition. Because the game idea had been in the family for at least 7 years at that point. And I feel like, I was just like, God, what can I do? What can I do to refocus my life? What can I do? And it's literally like the idea just came in my head. It was like, this is what you're going to do. And I received it. And I just literally the day I got out of jail, I sat at the computer for like 10 hours and started working on creating this game. I didn't know where or how I was going to start. I just started, I just started researching games and the game market and hip hop games. And it was like, I can only say I was, God was my partner throughout this whole journey. The hardest work a person has to do is the self-development work. You have to look at yourself. And you have to do that hard work of saying, you know what, there's something wrong with me and what do I need to fix? And then you have to do the work to fix it, and that's the hardest work because a lot of people are not willing to self-develop and say, okay, I'm messed up and I need to change these things about me. People can't even take constructive criticism from others, let alone look within themselves and say, you know what, I'm not right in these areas, and then actually begin to do the work to try and fix yourself.
Every day, success, and we say a lot, success is earned every day. One of the, how you prepare today determines success tomorrow. That's something that, is kind of our tagline here on the Jedburgh podcast. And so being able to every day personally assess yourself, wake up and say, okay, today I'm going to do a little bit more. And then over this long period of time, I'm going to have come so far is really what you had to do.
Yes, for sure. Every day. So it was at that point, I was really drinking a lot. I was out of shape. I had no goals at all. I was completely lost. So it was like those little things every day. It was like, okay, I have to fix my mind, my body, and my soul. It was all those three things I needed to fix and work on and develop. And so it started with my mind. I just started researching, how to get your mind right, how to fix your clarity, increase your consciousness, all that. And I was brought to meditation. And I started really researching higher levels of consciousness, how to tap in, meditation. And oh my God, so meditation is something I do every single day. It helps to center me. It is really, I believe, the foundation of all mental health for anybody. I know it's difficult for people to do. It was definitely difficult for me to do in the beginning, but again, those baby steps, first you can do it for 30 seconds, 30 seconds becomes 3 minutes, and then it grows and you're able to just like quiet the mind. And with so much noise in the world, we have to be able to quiet the mind for at least, a few minutes a day. And it's really helpful. It gets you kind of recalibrated. So meditation is something I do every single day. It's the first thing I do. A lot of people look at their phone. That's the first thing you do. And I would say replace the first thing you do with just opening your eyes, giving thanks for being able to, live another day, and then just quieting the mind for as long as you can. And meditation really is, you're not thinking about anything. It's like silence, complete silence, where you're not thinking about the future. You're not thinking about the past. You're really in the present moment. So you're able to hear everything. And that's a good sign that you're tapped in, is that you are able to hear every sound, from the birds in the sky to the truck driving down the street to the little buzz you hear maybe from the electricity. That's how you know you're in the present moment, because you're not thinking about the past or the future. You're in the present moment.
In a previous episode, we spoke with Dr. Claudius Conrad, who's the chief of surgery at Tufts Medical Center. And he said, every day you take a shower for your body, you must also take a shower for your mind. And if you can take and that he does that through piano, actually. And so if you could take a shower for your mind, you cleanse all of kind of the waste, right, off, and then you recenter yourself and you can begin to execute again. And so let's talk about this. You had the vision for the game. You bring it back to your roots. You want to build something. I define entrepreneurs as people with drive, adaptability, humility, curiosity, right? Those are part of our 9 characteristics of elite performers. Mm-hmm. You have to push the envelope to do more, faster, harder. So you talked about dedicating yourself now to this project of building Rhyme Antics. Now, execution of the vision is the hardest part. So many people wake up every day and they say, I have a million great ideas. I can't execute any of them. But what defines success is how well you actually can execute on those ideas, especially as a solo founder. I mean, this was just you who had to build this, embark on this journey. You also chose an extremely competitive and to some extent a niche industry in board games. And so just a little data on the competition. I mean, these are some of the biggest companies in the world. And 2020 revenue for Hasbro, $5.4 billion, Mattel, $4.5 billion, Ravensburger, $752 million. There's well-known competition out there. Cards Against Humanity, right, is probably the biggest one kind of in this space right now. I would not call that an educational game, but I would say that's more on the fun side. Mm-hmm. And then for these established businesses who've been in the board game industry for a long time, COVID has provided actually opportunity for them. Revenues are up 20 to 30% because they're established. They have marketing departments, they have advertising, everybody knows them. Also has created a challenge for new entrepreneurs trying to break into the space because of lack of funding, which we can talk about. But when you sat down to then say, okay, I'm going to take the first steps to develop Rhyme Antics, you have to go through this concepting and prototyping phase. Yeah. How do you do that for a board game? I mean, it's just, how do you sit there and say, oh, I'm going to create a board game now. What are the first things that I do? I wouldn't even know where to start.
For me, I've always been like an artsy person, crafty person. When we were at Weston, I used to win all the art shows. I don't know if you knew that, but my artwork always won art shows. So I've always been an arts and craft person, like putting things together, figuring it out. And it started with me just, okay, I'm going to create a game. I went to the store and I bought a bunch of games and I just analyzed and dissected them and figured out the components and what goes into creating one. And you know what I mean? Okay, so there's the parts, there's the how to play, the methodology. And board games are for me, this game isn't really a board game, but it's categorized as one because it has the scoreboard piece. And it's mostly paper. So it's called a board game. But when I thought of board games, it was like, Candyland or like.
Right. Yeah. Monopoly.
Yeah, exactly. So this is categorized as that, but it's like a card game, I guess, with a mic. And so it was a little bit easier. And I knew it had to be, cards and the phrase on the front and on the back. And, as time went on, I wanted the microphone to be a music playing microphone. But then, it's like as time went on and I held all the focus groups and just listening to the players and potential customers, I really listened. I really, really listened to the players. A lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in just listening to themselves and not doing what they want to do, what they like. But I really listened to the players. And so like the mic that I didn't necessarily want to look like this, I listened to the players. Players wanted this mic because they could squeeze it and think and drop it. And it was kid friendly. And you know what I mean? You could hit somebody on the head with it or drop the mic and it not break. So I really listened to players and my focus groups. And as time went on, I developed a market-ready product. And it was hard because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I believe you said you saw the first iteration of...
Yes, talk about the first one, because there's a video of you where you describe it. And you're absolutely right. I mean, you have to have humility as a founder, right? Because so many founders fall into this trap of, they're the greatest idea. And you see companies that are 5, 7, 10 years old that are still completely founder-centric, where their idea is the only idea and nothing else matters. And so to hear that you embrace that feedback, that's an extremely mature attitude and this sense of humility that you have to say there are other people who may have better ideas and they are the end user. And at the end of the day, are you creating a game that you want, or are you creating a game that the market wants, exactly. Right? There's one seller, right? Or buyer, right? If it's you, there's the entire market if you're creating what the market wants. And so talk about the first one, because I saw this video and I was literally in tears watching it. I can't describe it. I wouldn't do it any justice.
Yeah. So it was literally a shoebox. So when you create an invention from ideation to market ready, it's like it goes through this long evolution. Things change. And so the first iteration was in a shoebox. It was literally a shoebox that I wrapped with. I got a graphic designer and shared my vision of what I thought the box should look like. And it was terrible colors. It was like green and Caribbean and fuchsia. And oh my God, when I look at it now, I'm like, what the hell? But it's like, I did it, it was like what I saw and, eventually it changed. But yeah, it was in this shoebox. And then I had this big clunky microphone. It was actually like a mic I found at my mom's job. And then I had got this plexiglass thing made to go around it that held what were they called?
The iPod.
The iPod, yeah.
The iPod, yeah, fit in there. I was laughing so hard.
I know. It held the iPod in there so that the music played while players held the mic. And then I had the cards, loosely in the box. And, it went through 2 different kind of graphic design changes. And then I had that packaging for all my focus groups. I mean...
And you've talked about your focus groups, because your focus groups were you going to karaoke bars and saying, hey, try this game. What do you think? Which I think is so innovative. It's an ingenious idea.
When you have no money, you have to be super creative. And that's what I was. I had a lot of friends and family, and I would hold these focus groups and just ask people if I could host game nights, focus group testing at their house. And, I said, I'd bring the liquor and the food and, I just want a few friends to gather and play this game and tell me what they think. And I mean, literally, I did this for like 5 years of the research and development, held about 50 focus groups and kept all the data. And so me doing that really created, which led up to, me launching my crowdfunding campaign. That proved to me that I had a market-ready product and that people would buy it. And so, yeah, I held these focus groups, different demographics. I did it at schools, elementary schools to college. I remember I did one at Berkeley School of Music. I did one at Weston. Mr. Fuller let me come in and do one at Weston.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this was like 2013. I went back to Weston and held a focus group with Mr. Kelly. I showed him. I would love to show this game to Mr. Kelly and him see where I'm at with it now. That would be so awesome. And so, oh my God, when I think of all the work I put in, just, believing in my product, it's kind of crazy. Like, I really put a lot of work in.
So crowdfunding has been a big piece of this from the beginning. You're in another round of crowdfunding right now.
Yeah.
You actually started an educational series where you're talking about crowdfunding to new entrepreneurs, new founders, based on these kind of different initiatives and rounds that you've done. And you mentioned it a second ago, and I want to bring it up again, but you said that you won't know if people are going to support your product until you actually get people to invest and own that, kind of take on that product. And so crowdfunding to you is a great opportunity to test that viability and allows you to understand, are you market ready? Because somebody's going to look at it and they're going to say, yeah, I'm willing to donate some money to see where this goes. So Can you talk about crowdfunding, how you've used it, how somebody develops a successful crowdfunding campaign?
Sure. Yeah. So first off, for any invention, crowdfunding is, I feel, the only way to test the market to see if you have a viable product based on a prototype only. Before an entrepreneur or inventor goes and invests a whole bunch of money in inventory and marketing and doing all this stuff, before they have actually tested the market to see if people will buy this thing they've created, they have to do a crowdfunding campaign. So, after 5 years of serious research and development, playing the game with hundreds of people, I launched a crowdfunder through Indiegogo, and I pre-sold 300 units just based off, my video and using the data from all the people I've met over the years. And those people came back and purchased the game because they genuinely loved it. And so it's important to step outside of your family and friends because those people have bias. They love you. They care about you. They're not going to shoot down your idea. And so you really have to see if people outside of your family and friends will buy this product. And then that's how you know that you have something. And so I was able to I had a $10,000 goal on Indiegogo back then. I raised $11,000. Today, I find myself having to do it again because, COVID hit me. Even though sales were great because games are up, I had just gotten the relationship with Target last summer. And so I knew I was going to have to raise a seed round of capital to grow the business to full scale. And COVID hit literally 2 weeks after I started pitching investors. And so, as you can imagine, it's been tough and grueling. And, we got so many no's. And, I've been actively pitching up until now. So I found myself absolutely, after we got into Walmart a couple of months ago, I was like, I absolutely, have to get capital in the business to grow and to support the big box sales. So the product sits on the shelves. You need a marketing campaign to push the product and to get people to go in the stores to buy it. And so raising another round, $100,000 goal right now campaign. We still have 2 more weeks and it's running on funblackfounders.com. And you can't just jump into a crowdfunding campaign. It takes a lot of planning. And then when you're trying to raise a larger, when you have a larger goal, like I have like 100,000, like you actually need a small marketing budget behind that campaign to run that. So, you need to be able to run ads. You need to be able to speak to investors. And it's a process. I'm tired.
But the job as a founder, though, is also to stay true to your vision and the core fundamentals of the product.
Right.
And you've said that the thing that separates this product from everything else is that it's fun and it's educational. But you also turned down your very first licensing deal because they offered it to you, but you said that they didn't understand the community that the product talks to, that they had worldwide distribution. The game would get into all of these different retailers, but they didn't know how to successfully market the product. And even though Rhyme Antics is not just a Black product, it's a hip hop product, and that is Black culture. It's easy to get lost in the money, and I'm quoting you here, but I'm truly passionate about the impact the game has on the community and the kids, and I don't want to get lost because of the transaction. This is really interesting because that takes an incredible amount of courage to do that and forward thinking. We spoke in a previous episode with Peter Cancro, the CEO and founder of Jersey Mike's, and he purchased Jersey Mike's when he was 17 as a single store on the Jersey Shore. But his first investor conversation was with an organization that wanted to take an equity position in that business. He was only 17 and he said, no, I want to be the only owner. And he walked away from that. And he only had 1 week to close that deal. And then he subsequently went and got his football coach to invest. He became the sole owner. Today, they're a $2 billion company in annual revenue with 2,000 stores. But had he made the decision to take an equity partner in, that'd be totally different now. And I think about that story when I talk about this, because you had to walk away from that. And now, as you said, you're feeling the effects potentially of that now, where they could have provided you a ton of capital, but would it take the product in a direction that you didn't want to go?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I was offered a deal from two of the biggest toy kind of game companies, Spin Master, who's like, third to Hasbro, and Play Monster offered me licensing deals. This was like pre-Target partnership. And, I knew they had the distribution. I knew they had the ability to get the product, worldwide and all the stores I'd always dreamed of. But I also knew I could do it on my own. One of the greatest things about social media is like the ability for the entrepreneur or the artist or whoever to directly talk to customers and get their own sales and generate their own awareness. We don't need these big guys anymore. We can do it ourselves if you're willing to put in the work. And so I believed in myself and my product that much. And I didn't want to sell out. That's the thing. The hip hop culture is really, really near and dear to my heart. I love hip hop. I love the culture. I grew up in it. It raised me. It's the reason why I created this product. And I just didn't want to sell out and give it to a company that did not understand the market. And yeah, it's not, hip hop was a Black thing in the beginning, but now it's the number one music genre in the world. It speaks to everybody. Everybody loves hip hop. So I just felt confident that I could get in Target and Walmart on my own. And look at me today. I did that. And so now I have the ability to sell those millions of units that I wanted to on my own. And there were other examples, like Cards Against Humanity is a company that I really watched their business model closely, and they didn't sell out at all. They kept their business theirs and, were able to dominate in the space as a new game by not selling out. So I knew I could do it too.
So what's next? I mean, now you're in this emotional roller coaster. We talked about it before we started, the entrepreneur roller coaster, right? The founder roller coaster, where 1 minute you're on top of the world. I'm in Target and Walmart. I have a potential to sell millions of units. Everything is going well. And then 30 minutes later, we need money. Everything is lost. Nobody's buying the product. I mean, I go through this daily with the podcast. I mean, 1 minute it's like, oh, we're going to do awesome. We have all these great things happening. And then the next minute, nobody wants to listen. It's terrible. The content's awful. We can't get anything. And so it's a tough place to be in, and you have to constantly kind of come back to it and rationalize it, look internally. Okay, am I doing everything I can? Assessing yourself, assessing the operation. And so as you look now forward into really what becomes essentially the post-COVID world, as we do have some end of the light on this, what's next? What's the focus, and how do you stay grounded and looking forward to putting the pieces in place to really grow this thing?
So I want to tell you have an exclusive on this news I'm about to broadcast.
Uh-oh.
I just got funded, actually. Yeah.
Amazing.
Mass Mutual, who's a huge insurance firm.
Yeah.
They have Impact Investment Fund. And I just closed a deal for $250,000.
Congratulations. That is
Yes.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So after getting turned down, hearing 30 no's from VCs and angel investors during COVID, I kept on. And I just really found any and every opportunity. And, you know, I pitched them and they decided to invest in me. So things are looking good. My future's so bright. I need to find my shades. Where are they?
Put your sunglasses on. I can't see.
Right.
Well, congratulations.
My thing is, like, I'm determined to win. You know what I mean? Like, determined. And I don't let anything really stop me or get me off course. I understand that there'll be no's. I understand that the bumps will come, the hurdles will come. But as long as you stay the course and stay committed to your goal, you will achieve it.
So true. Absolutely. So should we play the game a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Give everyone an opportunity to listen to me embarrass myself.
Let's hear your bars, Fran. MC Fran, you the man. All right, so I'm gonna pull a card.
Okay, I failed significantly on the easy cards last night.
Really? So. Okay, so I'll give you intellectual then. Maybe
no! Oh no!
Okay, hold on. This is a good one. Let's just try it, okay?
Okay. You're right about the mic, too, because literally, so I have the podcast mic in front of me, and as I'm watching you, because we have the screen share, I'm watching you grab your cards. I subconsciously just grabbed the microphone from the game to put it in my hand, even though I have a microphone right in front of me. So it's so funny because you were talking about how the actual focus groups wanted this microphone they could squeeze. And I'm like, I can't squeeze this one in front of me, but I can certainly squeeze this one.
Yeah. And when you're thinking, it's stress foam material. So when you're thinking, you're squeezing it like, oh man, whoa. Okay, so this is the intellectual level.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm ready.
It's pass me a tonic.
With tonic being the word.
Tonic is the rhyme word. I'll help you out. I'll go first. This podcast interview is pretty ironic. Go.
If only it was supersonic.
Very good. After this, I'm going to smoke me some chronic.
Oh. That's all right. We already did an episode on cannabis. So, so totally acceptable. Yeah, totally acceptable conversation on the Jedburgh podcast. I can't use tonic again.
No, you cannot.
I want to say like, oh, if I only had some phonics, but I don't think that works.
Yeah, I think you're forcing it. The new Lil Nas X video is very demonic.
Oh, if only we felt platonic.
Very good. This mic is cool, but I originally wanted it to be electronic.
Ooh. Oh, man. I don't have anything for that.
You don't have any more?
No, what else you got? Go to the next one.
Yeah, so words that you could have said was like harmonic, syndronic, symphonic, all these words, right?
Oh
There's so many of them. Yeah, so that was intellectual. So you get a taste of like how hard it can be, right? So the intermediate level seems to be the easiest for adults, which is weird because the easy level is all those sight words we learned when we were in elementary school. And we have like forgotten all those words apparently.
Oh, definitely. I don't know.
So this is the intermediate level. It says, I'm afraid of the dark. Go.
Take me to the park.
Very good. I don't want to get in the water. I'm afraid of the shark.
I just heard a dog bark.
Very good. My favorite Bible story is Noah's Ark.
Oh. Shark dark. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. I'm out.
I'm about to embark.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, there's like 10.
The only thing coming to my mind is dark, which you already said. Yeah,
there's stark. There's remark.
Oh my gosh.
There's lark, hark. Yeah, it's all these words, right?
And all right, let's do one easy one.
One easy one? Okay. Here you go. I don't smoke. Go.
Or else I will choke.
I used to be broke.
Until I gave it a poke.
Give me my eggs without the yolk.
Or else I'll take a soak.
That was a funny joke.
I could do this all day.
I know.
Oh, man.
I know.
This is awesome. This is really awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so happy and proud of you to hear that you closed the funding deal. This game is awesome. It's so fun. I couldn't wait to pick it up. I couldn't wait to play it. I'm sure I'm going to be playing it regularly.
So you actually was able to find it at a Target near you?
I found it at a Target. I did.
Very
I went
good.
and there were only 2 left. So I did it on the app so that I had to secure it before I drove all the way there to get it. So before we close out, I have to ask you about some things that you do every day to be successful. And the way that we talk about it here on the Jedburgh podcast is we talk about the Jedburghs in World War II and the fact that they had to do 3 things successfully every day as the core fundamentals to their entire operation. They had to be able to shoot, they had to be able to move, they had to be able to communicate. I'm still holding the mic, by the way, if you could see that. And if they did these things successfully every day, it didn't matter what challenges came their way, they would be able to step back, find a way to solve them, and then find success. What are the 3 things that you do every day to be successful?
So I mentioned meditation. That's what I do every day. I have to do it every day. And surprisingly, I do make my bed every day. And it's something I didn't used to do. But I read a podcast. It's something that you were in the military, so that's something they make you do, right? But I find that after I meditate and I get up and make my bed, there's something about doing that every single day that makes me feel like I can go and conquer the world. I don't know why. I don't know what the psychology is behind it, but I never used to make my bed up until like less than a year ago. And I feel good about it. I feel organized. It gives me a sense of being a very organized person. And I feel like I can go and accomplish my day and conquer my day. And then the third thing I would say I do that I didn't used to do is I put a solid 5 hours a day into my work. I think being an entrepreneur, the toughest part is time management because we have the freedom to do whatever we want. We don't have anybody over us. You know, we don't punch a clock. There's nobody over me telling me what I have to do, when I have to do it. And I used to not commit myself to the solid work hours a day, but I sit at my desk for a solid 5 hours a day and I don't move. And I just work. And I give myself these 90-minute increments of focused time. And then after that 90 minutes is up, I can, take a break, have something to drink or whatever, but I have 90 minutes of focused time. So for me, it's like really just the discipline of my schedule and my time management and setting my day right. In that meditation, which I find time to talk to God, it's kind of like my prayer time as well. I ask God for the strength to do these things every day because it's like developing my willpower and my discipline and consistency. So yeah, those are the 3 things I do every day to just keep myself going. And even when I feel like I don't have anything to do, like sitting there for 5 hours, you find things to do.
You have things to do. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep. And the making of the bed, you achieve something, right? It's small, but you've achieved something very small very quickly to start the day. So in the assessment of elite talent, we use 9 core characteristics: drive, resiliency, adaptability, humility, integrity, effective intelligence, team ability, curiosity, and emotional strength. And I classify every one of my guests. You display all of them. You have to in order to be a top performer. You display them all at certain times. But I give everybody one core one. For you, I believe it's drive. And I define this drive as the need for achievement, a growth mindset, be better today than you were yesterday, continuous self-improvement. You have shown that. You have been at the lowest lows. You have achieved the highest highs. I've been fortunate enough to know you for a very long time. I'm so excited for the next phase. I'm so proud of you for what you've achieved in launching this game, bouncing back from turmoil the way that you have, closing this funding round. And I can't wait to see what's next. And I look forward to talking to you again. And thank you so much for joining me on the Jedburgh podcast.
Thank you, Fran. It was an honor. Thank you for having me to your community.
American Jedburghs went on to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh podcast. I'm your host, Fran Racioppi. We're brought to you by the Talent War Group, an executive search firm and talent advisory. We'll drive you to attract, retain, and develop top talent. With services like talent acquisition, leadership development, and keynote speeches, we work with you to create talent solutions to business problems. To get started, visit talentwargroup.com. Join us next week for a new episode of the Jedburgh podcast on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, the Talent War Group, and the Jedburgh podcast on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh podcast and the Talent War Group contribute a percentage of all profits to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, supporting the families of our fallen warriors. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.